Hello, Chad. Welcome to Millionaire University. Super excited to chat with you today. You are very accomplished in your industry in your own right. And so we're going to hear all kinds of good value from you and help our audience to understand how they can create their businesses, create wealth, and do so without burning out and burning their businesses to the ground. So thanks for coming on today.
Hey, I'm really happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So I see a surfboard in the back. Where are you coming at us from? Like, do you live somewhere warm? I hope right now, as we're recording in December, that you can go outside and feel a little warm.
It's the high is 79 degrees today, I think, so it should be all right. Yeah, I'm in Southern California, so
Nice. Okay.
got to have some coastal feel in my studio here at work.
Yeah. Yeah. Good representation. So give us a little background for you. I know you're a father, you have multiple business endeavors, you're an author. So just give us a little bit of what your entrepreneurial pathway has looked like.
Sure. So married since 2001, father of five kids, ages 9 to 20, and we're very family focused. That comes first. I am a businessman and entrepreneur. I was not always an entrepreneur. I actually started at Merrill Lynch Wealth Management out of college and built a wealth management business, finding my own clients, learning the ropes of investing at a big Wall Street bank. And I left in 2011 and I started Pacific Capital. And since I started Pacific Capital and began writing, connecting, creating content, having speaking opportunities, I started a few other businesses. And one of those is related to sports. We've got a sports business that has a big facility, a gym that hosts Nike and ESPN and Adidas tournaments, basketball, volleyball, youth sports. So my kids play on those teams. So that's a lot of fun. That was something that we as a family wanted to invest in and start just for many reasons. And then I have Platinum Elevated, which is my coaching business for entrepreneurs who are looking to have that community, that mastermind, and really have that growth coaching from a mentor who's already reached some level of success. So
Awesome. So I'm curious because on this show, we tend to share this path that is a little bit different than the traditional. So you started on the traditional path with the
mhm.
job, with the career, and then shifted into creating your own company. Where did that come from? Like what happened or what was the desire to shift into building something of your own?
Yeah, and to give background, I never had entrepreneurship experience before that. So I can't say that as a kid I started businesses because I didn't. I definitely think I have that DNA where I just don't necessarily think like the rest of the group. So it was inside of me, but until I was 31 and a half years old, I had never done anything like that. It came from just discomfort and displeasure with the big banks. After the 2008, 2009 big recession, global recession, real estate went down, interest rates were all the real estate issues, the big banks were struggling, and Merrill Lynch was bought by Bank of America. And when Bank of America came in, they started changing things and it became less and less fun to go to work. And I just realized that I needed to do something different or I wasn't going to be happy working there the next 30 years. So
Mm,
I left and said, how can I stay in the industry I love, but create something totally unique for clients? And that's what I did.
cool. Because I know some people can be in that career path and they choose to completely pivot and do something out of industry. But that was my next question. So it sounds like you still had a super big passion for what you were doing, just not within the framework. And so you went and created so that you could have that
Pacific Capital,
opportunity.
yeah.
Yeah, created
Yeah.
that so you could
Yeah, it
do
was
that on
like,
your own terms.
yes, it was very difficult. The bureaucracy was extremely tough to deal with for me. I mean, it got to the point where we couldn't even mail out a birthday card without having two different people sign off on the birthday card that it was acceptable, and it would take a week. And it was like, what am I doing here? Like this is like babysitting. This is like the DMV for financial firms, and everything is slow. It's so overregulated where there's just no trust, and they didn't want us to have that personal relationship with clients.
Mm,
It was more about what's good for the bank, what's good for the bank. And so eventually I was like, that's not why I'm in this industry. I'm in this industry to help families be successful and make good decisions with money.
yeah.
And ultimately I realized I love working with entrepreneurs. And so all of my writing, my books, my focus is on serving entrepreneurs and their families.
Love it. So for yourself, even embarking with saying the entrepreneur was in there somewhere and it hadn't
Yeah.
necessarily manifested itself, what were some of your unique challenges as you shifted from this very like boxed in version of financial gain and working in a corporate America into, okay, now I'm in charge. Now I have to build this. Like, what did it look like? How long was it just you? And did you have a big vision of what this was going to look like long term? Or was it just kind of like, okay, we're going to start our own thing and see where this goes?
Yeah, so it was me plus an assistant plus someone in the training program, someone who was less than 2 years in the industry. So I had two employees to start. Could I have imagined where we would grow to and what we'd be doing now? Absolutely not. No way. I'd be lying if I said I had that in my goals. I had to figure it out. I think the biggest challenge was I didn't have a big logo behind me. I was used to seeing our company on commercials, at professional sports games. It was like everywhere. And now it was like, who's Pacific Capital, who's Chad Willardson, instead of like, oh, I work at this big brand logo that everyone should recognize. So I think the biggest challenge was me realizing that people can still trust a brand that's not on TV all the time,
Mm.
and being able to build that reputation. It took a while, it took a lot of effort, but here we are. So
Yeah. So you've made that shift where you both help people with your company to build that wealth and invest that wealth as they're growing their own businesses, and then also coaching and providing mentorship. So along that vein, when you're working with somebody who might be in the early to middle stages of building a business, what are some of the most, I guess, potent principles that you would say you need to have in order to make it? Because there's so many businesses that start every year, and we know that there's a huge difference between those that succeed and those that fail. For you personally, even from experience and then what you coach on, what are some of the top things that you feel like we need to have in terms of making it?
I wish I had the article in front of me. I wrote an article for Entrepreneur Magazine that was about essentially key financial principles for new entrepreneurs or newer entrepreneurs. I think there are so many things that we get caught up in as people trying to build a business that we forget some of the just foundational basics, like realistic forecasting, like understanding that things will take longer and cost more than our first optimistic estimates, having specific goals. I think having a very clear goals and accountability process where we're reporting to somebody. I think that's a challenge sometimes for entrepreneurs. They report to nobody,
Mm-hmm.
and they get in their own head and they think everything they're thinking and doing is accurate. But you've heard the phrase, maybe you can't read the label from inside the jar. And a lot of entrepreneurs have no idea what they're doing. They can't see it. If someone on the outside can see it very clearly. So I think surrounding yourself with the right people, getting accountability, having specific goals, being financially thoughtful with the business and the business finances, and not just mingling personal stuff and making it kind of blurry, using it as a piggy bank, especially if you're raising money from investors. I see a lot of people screw that up when they raise outside money and then they spend money like it's their money. That's always a red flag for me. I would say persistence, clarity, leverage, hiring the right people. For me, my greatest success comes from having amazing people that I brought on my teams. In
Hmm.
all businesses, it really comes down to going after the high character, high quality, motivated, and really capable people, and training them in the skills they need, but hiring based on their attitude, their character, the energy they bring to what your mission is. And I believe that too often we try to hire based on resume or past skills or things that maybe could be learned, and we need to look at people's attitude and character and what they really are striving for, and then get out of the way. I think entrepreneurs too often want to be in charge, so they make so many decisions and they trust themselves more than anyone else, and so they want to be involved in everything. And I think one thing that's separated me from others is I've been able to give a lot of autonomy to my people and just give up control. So you don't have to be in charge of everything. You don't have to be involved in everything. And over time, you trust your people, you help them grow, you train them, you lead them, and sooner than later, you've got a business that is self-managing.
Hmm. Which is the dream, right? We don't go into entrepreneurship and having a business with the anticipation that we're going to work more than we did in our corporate jobs. We really want freedom. And I think so. You've been in this world for long enough that you've seen the evolution of online marketing and the promises and the dreams that are being sold, and even sometimes that we have in our own marketing messages of like, this is what's possible. We can do all these things. And I've kind of noticed that because of that, because of this dream that we are being sold, that it sometimes skews the reality that is in front of us in terms of something that you started off with your answer, with like understanding your numbers and really planning intentionally and knowing it's going to take longer than you think it's going to take and it's going to cost more than you think it's going to cost. And I've seen so many entrepreneurs struggle and fail within that first year because they just don't even understand that initial principle that we see the big picture and we think if we haven't achieved the big picture in the first 6 months, then I guess it's just not meant to be for us and we go try something different. So do you have any tools or have you worked with people enough to kind of see how we can go into, we're starting a new year as we plan and we're setting goals, what does it look like when you set your goals? And what would you recommend to somebody getting started so they're not looking at this, oh, I'm going to make like $500,000 this year when they haven't made 1,000 yet?
Yeah, yeah. I think that it's a double-edged sword. I like big goals. I like stretch goals. I believe that you don't want to set really low goals because it doesn't really motivate you or pull you into action. At the same time, understand what it really takes. Too often we see stuff online. Like I've tried to be that voice online as much as I can to say, look, the stuff you're seeing me able to do now is because I put in 20 years of really hard work. I was cold calling. I was walking business to business. It was before social media. I was addressing envelopes and stuffing them with seminar invitations. I was getting rejected every single day, over 100 times a day on the telephone, trying to get people to schedule an appointment or talk about their financial life. And so if someone sees me online now and they're like, oh man, this guy, he's got such a great life. He can travel. He's got a private jet. He can do all these cool things. Like, I want to do that next year. I mean, maybe you can. And some people do. But it wasn't like that for me. It took a very, very long time of building and growing and struggling and failing to actually get to where I had some financial freedom. And so as you're setting goals, set ambitious goals, but understand that the work required to get there is significant. Like you can't have those amazing rewards without a significant amount of work. The way to really get leverage in that is by working with people or having mentors or coaches or hiring people that gives you leverage that accelerates your success. And so if you're going to set big goals, you better find ways to accelerate your success, or you might give yourself too short of a deadline to achieve what you're trying to achieve.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I love the analogy. I love the story. You can't read the label from inside the jar, because I think so many of us feel like, well, I can't afford to invest in mentorship or in help or guidance or tools. And so I'm going to do the DIY route. And then we end up spending more time in the long run, losing more money because we didn't just put in that upfront investment. And it's not even so much of like paying, if you pay the right person, they're going to have all the answers. I think it's even being in a place where you're teachable and coachable and you can acknowledge that you don't have all the answers, and that the more you're willing to be open-minded and receive that critique, then you're going to move your business forward 10 times faster. It's such a weird little thing we fall into.
Yeah, no one likes to help a know-it-all. So people will help you when you are vulnerable, when you ask for advice and you take advice. If you're coach, the wealthiest people I have as clients are very coachable. I have a client whose business is now valued at almost $3 billion. And we invest 9 figures for him. And we're in charge of his money. We are making the decisions daily about what to do with his money. And he humbly asks me for advice. And yet I've had people who have $20,000 in their investment account, and they're telling me why they know what they should be doing. And they're not clients, but they're telling me basically that they kind of know it all. And I'm like, it's so interesting that the people who have accomplished so much are the most coachable and the most teachable and are open to learning, and they're humble. Mm-hmm. And the people who know it all and are restricting the opportunities to learn are the people that haven't done much. Yeah. So I think there's a correlation there.
Mm-hmm. So huge importance in finding somebody who can guide you. And I think even if you're starting out and logistically it is a crunch to pay for a coach or a mentor, there is so much value in working with some kind of accountability partner, right? Like somebody who can see what you're doing and maybe where you're spinning your wheels. I think my caution that I would add to that, though, is make sure you have at least somebody who is a little bit further ahead or has some industry knowledge, because I've worked with people who we've almost like sabotaged each other because we stayed in the same cycles. What do you recommend in terms of like finding that mentorship, or what should you be looking for? Because I know we live in a time where there's digital courses galore. And
Yeah,
so where do you kind of feel like you need to be and what to look for?
that's what I mean, there's so much information out there. I mean,
Hmm.
like I have probably, I mean, maybe 10 to 15 private messages a day on LinkedIn from people who are saying, I log into LinkedIn just to read what you're posting each day. That's free and it costs nothing. So with YouTube, with LinkedIn, with podcasts, you can get mentorship for free. If you want to get more serious, there's courses, programs, and groups you can join. But there's so much information out there that is free. And if the advice resonates, if it's coming from someone you can verify, like has achieved things and is successful, and you've tried out some of the things they've taught and it's actually worked, I mean, those are great recipes to follow.
Hmm. So I know that principles of success are pretty universal no matter the industry. Do you typically work with people who are doing similar business models to what you have built, or are you working with people all across the board?
All across the board. Yeah, our entrepreneurs in Platinum Elevated are from all different geographies across the world and all different industries. Same as our Pacific Capital clients. It's not in one specific business, more like one specific mindset. So the
Mm,
mindset is similar, where they're growth focused, they're coachable, they're able to delegate, they're honest, they're generous. Those are the types of people I work with.
okay. So I wanted to kind of know that because I think we've spoken about this a lot on this show, that there are those universal pathways. Like there are just things, if you do the things that you just mentioned, being coachable, being humble, doing the work, then it's almost inevitable that you're going to have success, right? So
Right.
as you're going into, like, if you were speaking to somebody who just started, maybe they're in their first year of business and they're starting a new year. I know we've talked a little bit about some logistical, know your numbers and be realistic with your goals and be anticipating you're going to have to do the work. But how do you approach planning your year, and what would you recommend to somebody who's trying to be really intentional? They want to do the work, they're not afraid of it, they are coachable. What are some of like the tactical things that you recommend?
So in our coaching session yesterday with Platinum Elevated members, I gave them the wheel of life, basically every category you can think of, maybe 10 or 12 categories, like family, like relationships, health and fitness, finances and income, business and career, fun and adventure, like all these different categories. And I said, just pick one ambitious goal that you'd like to achieve in the next 13 months. So by the end of December 2025, where would you like to be in this specific category of your life? And the more clarity, the more direction you have. So if you don't have a target, you're never going to hit the target. So you've got to set a very clear target, make it measurable, make it something that stretches you, and then think of all the ways in the next 13 or 12 months that you can get to that point. And then I think writing out the details and visualizing, these are the things this is how it would feel if I accomplished that goal. This is what it would look like. These are the things that would happen because of it. So in 2019, 2020, I was in the lobby of a hotel in Hawaii, and it was just this incredible beach coastal lobby. The restaurant had these interesting beechwood tables and the very beachy furniture. And I took a bunch of pictures and I put it in my notes app, and I said, I'd love to buy a building in Southern California and have my office look very much like this. And so I had the pictures, I had the goal, and I wrote down about 10 to 15 specific details: the size of the office, what it would feel like, what it would look like, what kind of decorations would it have. And in 2023, I guess last summer, I bought the building,
Mm.
and we've been renovating it for a year. And here we are. We moved in recently. And I look back at that list and I showed my team members who work here, like, you guys, this is 5 years ago that I wrote this list down. It was very clear. I had pictures, I had specific details of how it would look and what it would feel like to work here. And some of these people I've hired only in the last few years, and they're like, wow, like every single thing on your list checked off. So I think the clearer you give the picture, the more likely you are to succeed and make it happen. But you
Mm.
still got to do the work, and you've got to think about, there's a great book called Who Not How. You got to think about who can help you get there, not how can I get there. And too often
Mhm.
we get stuck in the how, and we don't know how to do this, so we grind and we struggle. instead of just saying, who's already done something like this that can help me maybe accelerate my path.
Yeah. I had that experience myself this last year where I think I'd spent so much time in the how and trying to have the perfect business plan, the perfect funnel type and offer. And I was so caught up in all of those little details that I wasn't moving anything forward. And I finally recognized the need for mentorship. And I didn't even know specifically what I was looking for in a mentor. I just knew I wanted to find somebody who was doing exactly what I wanted to do. And I still wasn't even for sure what that was. I just knew how I wanted it to feel. And I knew what I wanted the structure of my life to look like. And I was led and guided to this person. And ever since then, I have been able to really move forward, detaching from that how and the methodologies. And it's not that those things never come into play, right? I'm sure you've seen, you had the vision, you had the very specific details, and then obviously you have to do something. You don't just sit there on the floor and wait for it to appear.
Mm-hmm.
It's just those things we tend to put first actually need to happen after the vision is complete and after we have found the path that we want to be in. So I love that. It's such sound advice that you do need to find who. Whether that's who do you want to emulate, who's already done this, or who do you need in certain places for you to actually be able to make this happen. So I would second that, basically, is what I'm saying. It's so powerful and so important. Otherwise, you're literally on a hamster wheel or on a stationary bike and you're not moving anything forward, but you're so tired because you're working, you're hustling, you're grinding, just not towards anything, and you don't even have the vision of where you're headed. So that's really powerful.
Yeah, I would say invest in experts and trust the experts. So
Mm-hmm.
it is an investment, it's not a cost. So there are lots of things like I invest in experts in many different things, like someone who helps edit my books. Like, could I say, no, I'm going to edit my books myself? Like, no, I want someone who's professionally looking at it from a different perspective and saying, hey, I don't know if this chapter should include this story. This story should go in another chapter. So like I hire and trust experts in every area of my life.
Smart. So you mentioned in the very beginning you're a dad, and you know obviously that brings a level of balance that needs to happen. And it sounds like you're a pretty involved dad. So what does that look like? You said you get a lot of questions from people looking at what you've accomplished and created, and they see that you're still a family man, you're still very connected to your kids. What have you seen that needs to happen right now? Because I know we have a tendency to be like, oh, well, I just have to hustle and grind and build the business, and then I'll have all this free time for my family.
Mm-hmm.
I would imagine you've probably done that a little bit differently. So what does that look like for you, and what do you recommend?
Yeah, so we've got, like I said, I've got 5 children, and I've always tried to prioritize the relationship with my kids and my wife more than just grinding for work. And so from the beginning, I was always looking for ways to be efficient with my time. Now, people say like how they look at the stuff I'm doing right now, and it looks like I'm doing too much. It looks like I'm way too busy, but that's not actually true. I have a great team of people who are helping support lots of different ways. Now, in the beginning, I didn't have that. So I was more about how could I do this most efficiently so I'm not working 80 hours a week. And that was always a priority for me. I think too often I see many people chasing money and fame at the expense of their personal health and at the expense of their family relationships. And I don't think those are mutually exclusive. I've tried to be fully invested in both family and business at the same time. What does that look like? It looks like sacrificing and cutting out a lot of wasted time. Believe it or not, I've never seen one thing on Netflix in my life.
Wow.
I never have. I don't have a Netflix account. I never have. My wife thinks I'm crazy. Like, she's definitely seen lots of cool movies and shows, and people tell me, oh my gosh, you're missing out. Like, you got to see this. And at some point I just realized I probably never will see something on there. But it's like, I can only use the time I have. And if I'm going to try to grow businesses and be a family man, I don't have time for a lot of the extra stuff. So we still have fun. I choose to do things in a different way, whether it's like exercise or vacation with our family. Like, we just got back from New Zealand a couple days ago and had all kinds of cool adventures as a family. And I think that you can do that when it's important to you. If you put off, it's just like putting off investing with money. The longer you wait, you're missing out on all that compound growth and all the dividends that come from investing early. I think it's the same with your relationships and your family. If you don't build a relationship with your kids when they're under 10 years old or 12 years old, like eventually they're a teenager and you don't really know them and they don't know you, it's very difficult to make up for that lost time. And so for me, it's just always been a priority to schedule one-on-one time with my kids, to make sure that I'm involved. I'm in the bleachers at their games, and I'm trying to teach them about business and money along the way. Like, too often we don't talk about it. So my second book is Smart Not Spoiled. It's how to teach kids about money to be successful in business and money from a young age. And I think that's really something we're missing in the school system.
Mm-hmm. Well, 100%, and you're on the right show to talk about that, right? Like we're trying to really change that narrative to where we're not just blindly following one path, and we're really starting to educate on things that matter to help us build sustainable success. And I love everything that you said. I think there's two perspectives that can be found within what you just explained. And I think sometimes we look at our businesses as like they're persecuting us, and we're just, oh, we can't, like, I'm sorry, I just can't do that. I can't be available to the kids. I can't be, a good father right now or a good mother right now because I just got to do this. And we look at it as like we're martyrs and we have to build this and we don't have a choice. Or we can look at it as, there's always choices. There's always opportunities to create. And it goes back to what you initially said too with your planning is there needs to be vision. There needs to be clarity in what it is that you're actually creating. And when you don't have that and it's just maybe a dollar goal or a financial goal or a business goal, and it's not taking the whole picture into account, then you just kind of go into this reactive, very unintentional state of being where you'll like, when will you know you've worked enough? When will you know you're successful enough to then step back and you build those habits? And it's so much more challenging to break a habit than it is to just form the new one from the get-go. So
yeah, and the risk of the stress, I guess, people who have $100 million in their bank account, they often still feel like they don't have enough. They've got to keep growing. It doesn't really change. The dollars in your bank account don't change you.
Mm-hmm.
The money just magnifies who you already are. So if you're generous, if you're a family person, then you're going to do great things once you have money in your hands. If you're selfish and greedy and you don't really care about other people, like, you're just going to have more of that when you have a lot of money. So one other thing I recently talked about with a friend's son who's graduating college this year or next year in April. He was trying to think, he thought that he should follow my career path and be in the same industry because his parents have talked about me to him before. And I said, it has nothing to do with the career path, like as far as the industry goes. In fact, I would argue that you shouldn't follow whatever I did. My path was different. And when I started, it was a different time. There were different things going on. But like, you can be successful in any industry you choose to be in. It depends on, is it something that you love, you really love what you're doing, you're naturally good at it, and people are willing to pay you for it. If you have all three of those, you're going to be successful. I have clients with lots of wealth and success they move dirt with trucks, they sell eggs, they ship boxes, they do air conditioners across the US. Like, it doesn't matter what the industry doesn't make you successful, is what I'm trying to say. Mm-hmm. It's really about your approach to business and relationships and communication and your vision and your goals. It has nothing to do with just, oh, this is the industry that's going to be really successful over the next few years. Like, I don't buy that just because I see too many successful people in so many different areas.
Yeah. Well, and we've also seen how it happens when you do just chase whatever the successful industry is. We're seeing a lot of changes to tech where a lot of people thought, oh, if I just go into computer programming and tech, that's a sure bet. I'll make tons and tons of money. And now AI has gone and ruined that. And so you're going to have to pivot and make adjustments no matter what industry you go into, but you're so much more likely to sustain those blows and those changes when you are in alignment with it and you're passionate about it. And you can be passionate about moving dirt, right? Because you have found that that's something that you thoroughly enjoy. And I'm sure for you too, with your kids, you've written a whole book about this. Something that I have learned is it's so much more important that I teach my kids and model for my kids what it looks like to follow your natural gifts and your talents and be in alignment with that, because everything becomes so much more simple when you're just trying to chase what you think will mean success and what you think the right industry is. You're going to feel frustrated constantly because you're not in alignment with that and you're not building something that you believe in. You're just chasing the almighty dollar. And the ironic thing is when you're in alignment, the money follows like 100% of the time.
There you go. I agree.
Yeah. Okay. So as we have learned a little bit more about you and we've seen that you've demonstrated this, you've built your business, you've stayed true to the family, you've kept all of your values in alignment. We've given a little bit of kind of a roadmap for that, but what would you recommend for people to do now? Because we've said we don't want to wait until later. So what needs to happen now so that we are setting that intention and we're not waiting until later to find that fulfillment and that connection to family and a well-rounded version of success?
Yeah, I think get out of your routine and think about what is your purpose? What drives you? What matters to you? If you were to go, if your life was over next week, what would you want written about you? What would you regret not having done? Who are the people in your life you need to spend more time with? What would you like to do with your money? What's the reputation that you think really matters? The legacy you want to build? I think all those questions are great. And as it's the holiday season, it's a turning of a new calendar. Those are great moments for people to just step away and reflect and write. To me, I feel like writing it does make a difference. Not recording a voice note, not typing it into your phone or your computer, but actually like physically writing things down. There's something about that in the brain chemistry where it does impact how you feel and how you act and how you behave in the future, the things that you write down. So I encourage people to really get away, get someplace quiet, and think about what you're doing this all for, what drives you, what motivates you.
Yeah. And then just because it's your expertise, I want to give a little bit, maybe not necessarily tips on investment, but even with that in mind, we talked about we don't want to just chase money, but obviously we know that we are entrepreneurs and we want to make money. We need to make money for our families. What are some things that you recommend as you're starting your business and you want to have that long-term vision in mind with making your money grow that you would recommend to somebody in those early stages of business? As you're starting a new year, what should we put in place and have in terms of systems and goal setting and vision in terms of our financial wealth?
Invest early and often, as much as you can. So investing in your business is great. Reinvesting in your business, that's wonderful. But also you need to invest outside of that. So as soon as you start earning a little bit of money, be thoughtful about what you do with that money. Start investing it. For me, the earlier I invested in the stock market and real estate, those investments have grown the most because I gave myself time. And when it comes to investing, your greatest asset is time. That's where you gain leverage, is the compound growth. So don't put off investing with your money. You can't make up for those years lost. So whether you're 50 or 25 or 16, like however old you are at this stage, the best time to invest is right now. It doesn't matter where interest rates are, where the economy is. It's been shown over time that investors who invest in growth assets and are patient and they keep investing end up having the most wealth. So while you're focused and your head down is in your business, your money needs to be working for you. So you work really hard for your money. You should also make your money work hard for you.
Okay. So I feel like there's been a theme here where we don't procrastinate and postpone the things that really matter. We don't get so caught up in the hustle and grind of building our businesses, building our lives, that we fail to actually live our lives, and we don't put in the proper investment. I love the analogy that you gave earlier, which made me think about the money investment too, where it's the same. You want to invest in relationships early on because nothing can account for that. I don't know if you've ever read the book. I think it's Outwitting the Devil. And I think the quote is something like, time is the enemy of the unjust and the immoral, and the friend of the just and the moral. And so if you're doing good things with your time, it's only going to serve you, and time will be your friend. Like, you invest your energy with your family, you invest your money properly, then time serves you in the long run. And if you're not honoring time, if you're not honoring your values and you're not honoring money, then time is simply going to hurt, because you're going to find at the end of 10 years, your life will look very different. So I think that's a really great lesson for us to take into account as we start a new year. We're looking, I know I mentally have a calendar in my head. Sometimes when it gets towards the end of the year, I'm like, oh my gosh, what happened? How did the whole year end already? And what did I actually do? And just use this as good food for thought to move forward and be a lot more intentional with creating and starting to be thoughtful in your business and in your relationships coming into a new year.
Plant good seeds with your time and your money, your relationships. Plant the good seeds, and the sooner you plant, the sooner they will grow.
Yeah. Amen. Okay, Chad, you are amazing. Where can people continue to work with you? I know we've talked a little bit about your coaching program. Where's the best place for them to go to get all the things that we've talked about today?
Yeah, chadwillardson.com or on LinkedIn. I'm there every day.
Okay, awesome. Sounds like there's some really good value posts on there as well. Thanks for coming on and chatting with me and sharing all that you have today. It's been awesome.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Of course.